Hello YouTube and welcome to account reviews. For today we're going to be checking out an account that's probably controversial. It's done a few things that you might immediately look at and go, huh, that's weird, but I don't know why. And that will probably be a good reaction for a lot of you, because this account, for all that it's strange, it makes sense. And even the account owner is doubting themselves and their decisions. We'll talk about them in a second. We'll talk about the options available to the account owner, and I don't think we're going to make many conclusions today, because there's a chance a lot of what we discuss is going to be subjective, and also, I guess the right word I want to say is tangible. There are going to be multiple options that are all fine and will eventually all come towards the same place. So let's go take a look. What we have is a level 220 VIP 7 account with a whopping amount of gems, 38,000, and a lot of gold. So this person is playing regularly, saving their resources. If I look at the bag straight up, you can see a good amount of resources. And wow, what the hell? You've got an active, a passive 1, and you've got a full passive 2 just sitting around in materials. What the heck? And I guess that stuff's just sat around because you're waiting for someone to build. You're waiting for a Transcendence hero to throw all this in. This is, or at some point you had this and you had to go and optimize elsewhere. And I think that is exactly what happened. I think that is what happened. You said a recent regress. I think it was. Scrolls were recently used. That makes sense. Chinese New Year was not too long ago, so that sapped you out of everything. A lot of your other resources are consumed. Halfway almost to your next Transcendence hero. Stellar shards are hardly there, because when we look at the heroes, you'll see we have a Tree of Origin 5 Mystic Fairy Freya. Mystic Fairy Freya is a phenomenal choice to make Tree of Origin 5 early, because she gains Pistol of Stars when you sublime this. This skill is phenomenal. This is giving you Evolutionary Factor, which gives you more damage against poison targets, but when upgraded, she gives it to the entire team. All allies get 33% of its bonuses. Lovely. Also, this passive here is giving you shields. It's phenomenal. Also improves even more attack and damage reduction for your team whenever they act. So, Mystic Fairy Freya, really good hero. However, what else have we got? Fairy Queen Vesa. I like it. Tree of Origin 3, good. You've gone ahead and fully upgraded her active skill. This is great for Star Expedition. This is giving you defenses and skill damage, but you didn't go so far as to upgrade everything else. I think that's wise. I myself have only upgraded my Vesa's active skill because the passives are fun for like consistent CC and, you know, other effects like additional blessings of purity, but you don't need that necessarily to go ahead and improve the overall performance of your Vesa compared to what you'd get from other heroes. However, considering you've got this stuff lying around, well, I assume it all came from this boy, your Lord of Fear, Aspen. This hero was probably tree upgraded, and now you're at a point where you have no Stellar Shards, so he can't be Tree of Origin upgraded because you went ahead and made Mystic Fairy Freya Tree of Origin 5. So because we've got a Mystic Fairy Freya Tree of Origin 5, you've gone ahead and used all your Stellar Shards to do this. Obviously, getting yourself decent passive skills is really, really strong, but these mainly come into play in 2 game modes. Boss fights, so stuff like Star Expedition, and Seal Land. Even though I love encouraging people to do this, unless Star Expedition is a main focus for you, there's not really a reason to. The reason I'm apprehensive is Star Expedition is not actually a game mode that generates you a lot of resources. Unless you really, really, really like it, well, then of course, go ahead. Absolutely chase as much damage as Star Expedition as you can. But for a more holistic account that wants to get more progress, it may have been worth just keeping Mystic Fairy Freya, even just a Tree of Origin 4, just so you can go ahead and enjoy maybe the extra shields from this, and then using the massive amount of Stellar Shards it takes you to upgrade Freya, to actually have Lord of Fear Aspen with the benefits, because Lord of Fear Aspen's active skill is guaranteed to fear opponents. This is really, really good. So maybe that's something worth leaning on. Or you could even argue that you want to strip your Stellar Shards away from heroes like Flora and from this Vesa over here. Yes, that'll take away power from your tenants, but it will still improve the Lord of Fear Aspen in his Tree of Origin, giving you the opportunity to put that sublimation to good use. And you said, yes, it is a focus since you have a top 50 guild. Ah, so there we go. Seeing that your guild is top 50 in Star Expedition means that this is a focus. So in which case, Harker, that's what I like to hear. So all the stuff I was saying about making Lord of Fear Aspen good for a holistic account, In that case, nah. This guy wants to compete and carry his guild across the finish line by getting one of the best passives for maximum damage. Awesome. Let's go take a look at his artifacts to see if he can back that up. Yeah, we got a flag on Freya. That's fine. We've got ourselves Atlas Cane. Nice. This is really good for boss fights. Huge damage can come from this. Really love to see it. By the way, 4 million attack on Vesa is no slouch. Nicely done there, dude. You've got yourself a splendid Demon Bell here. There's another one sitting around. And if we go take a look at this 9-star Ignis, you'll see we have even more Demon Bells just sitting on this account. So already that's 12 Demon Bells, which is 4 splendid. And if I go to the blacksmith, I can probably check if there's any more if I just look at the artifact regress. Splendid Melodic Strings, Ruby Scepter, Crown, Magic Stone Sword, Atlas Cane, of course, there's the flag, and there is a forest flag. So, one question that was asked to me, it was whether building Lord of Fair Aspen was a good idea. It's interesting. Sometimes I would recommend Lord of Fair Aspen over Starwing Jara because it's easier to make his crowd control consistent. You just have to give him a Ruby Scepter, let him go in, you've got a splendid Ruby Scepter somewhere, and by wearing that Ruby Scepter, he can go ahead and crowd control opponents for you in the Void campaign. This can also be really, really good in the Void Vortex, and yeah, you've managed to get this all the way up to Dominator Area 6, so that's actually pretty good. So you've already managed to do that pretty well. Now, whether you do want to go with Jara depends entirely on if you want to really lean in on Fairy Queen Vesa, because Jara is a tenant for Vesa, so is recommended often as a third Transcendence hero if you're taking this kind of path where Vesa is a main focus. You've got the Freya. If you go with Starwing Jara now, you can use her as a tenant, and that's tenant spot 4, which means you then don't have to have Freya as like another Freya copy, right? You, instead of having this Freya, swap it out, Jara. And you said because you've already cleared Vanquishers, you were thinking about the swap. It's not a bad idea. I think the swap's okay. The only thing I would miss is this B+ Lord of Fair Aspen, who, wow, he is fast. I like that a lot. The other thing is, do you really want to get rid of Aspen when you probably might just build him again anyway as your 4th Transcendence hero? Or are you going to go with Scarlet Queen Halora? And I think this is a really strong question I need to place on you. Because if you can get a Scarlet Queen Halora, that's even more damage in Star Expedition. And if you want to have an account that's well-rounded, you might even say leaving Aspen out of the account until 5 Transcendence heroes is a plan, right? Because you want to go with probably Jara to be a tenant, then the Scarlet Queen Halora to maximize your damage in Star Expedition, and then Lord of Fair Aspen is your 5th because that completes your crowd control package. Other people would absolutely want to get Jara and Aspen both on the account as soon as possible, so that'll be 3rd and 4th. So if you guys are at home watching that, that's another option. That's something you can back up with your 12 Demon Bells. You also have definitely enough spiritual essence to improve the active skill and important passives on a Jara to allow it to have that control lock. So that brings me to my next point, where when you're saying, should I build Jara instead of Aspen? When I saw this account on face value, my brain was like, if you don't have any sublimation or any way of improving the tree, I actually prefer Aspen here. But if you can get Jara to Tree of Origin level 4, and you can give her improved focus and an improved active skill, that is way more impactful than a Lord of Fear Aspen can be, but only if you can energy feed her. And then, as you saw, there are 3 splendid Demon Bells, so that is 100% possible. So when it comes to judging which hero is going to be more beneficial for the account, it is definitely up for debate. But I think, can you make a Jara work? Yes, you can go ahead and swap him for a Jara, energy feed the Jara, and have continuous actives. That'll help a lot in Realmsgate and game modes where she can really impact with crowd control. However, if you wanted something for Void campaign, you lack a team to be able to energy feed a Jara consistently, and you might find in game modes like Void campaign, Lord of Fear Aspen is so much better. And that's because he doesn't need other heroes to energy feed him. His standalone basic and active are just fantastic. You just slap a Ruby Scepter on him and watch him horrify opponents, giving the Freya and Vesa time to ramp up, give you control immunity, and you get big damage. So the 2 strategies are absolutely ideal, but it depends which particular one you want to focus on. Do you want to make more progress in Void campaign, or do you want to go ahead and make more progress in your Realmsgate? Now, that's not to say Aspen can't help you in Realm's Gate as well. And obviously, the main weakness of Aspen is he's not a tenant, so you're losing a little bit of damage on your Vesa. Now, you've said in chat that you're already pretty far in campaign for 3 Transcendence Heroes, so let's go see how far you've managed. Okay, you're not the furthest you could be. I have seen teams with Mockmen, and I've seen teams with Sword Flash as main damage dealers get much further than you are right now. However, you can, of course, push pretty well, and you have pushed pretty well for a team that's Vesa focused, so this isn't terrible. I think maybe with a Jara and Lord of Fear Aspen together, if you went with Transcendence Hero 1 and 2, then you could mow through this, maybe even get to 2-1, right? You'd have to really focus, though. And unfortunately, that would then mean you don't build the Halora. You don't push her out. So you've really got to now be at a position where you have to weigh up what is more important. And I think this is really common. Accounts that have a limited number of Transcendence Heroes can't do everything. Whenever you see things that focus Mockman or Sword Flash, that's because we're encouraging you to make progress in the Void campaign. With an account like this is focusing on boss damage. So it depends what your priorities are as an individual as to what you choose. Now, I'm hoping that based on this discussion and what we've already said, that our friend Harker, who owns this account, has actually made some decisions already in advance. So, Harker, what are you leaning towards? So, speaking to Harker, Harker sounds like he's on the side where he wants to go with Jara as a swap for his Aspen. Then build Halora to optimize his Star Expedition damage. That gives him 2 good tenants, and Halora who can help with her Abyssal Corruption. And then, by bringing Lord of Fear Aspen back when you get to 5 Transcendence Heroes, you then have 5 really good heroes that'll work together, where you can then actually focus on your Starwing Jara that you would have built, and make her a main homeowner, but then always come back to your Vesa, allowing her to be your major damage dealer during Star Expedition, and enemies that cannot be controlled by the Jara. This is a really good strategy, and I think it will get you a lot of progress, especially in Void Campaign actually later down the line. So even though heavily investing maybe in the Lord of Fear Aspen now might get you more Void Campaign progress potentially, once you do get all of those Transcendence Heroes, it doesn't really matter, because Jara will be the focus, Jara will be able to push, and with all the survivability and the support and the added control from the Aspen, your team will make a lot of progress. All you need is Jara to be quick. If you want advice about which homeowners you at home should have on your account, I have videos discussing the best heroes for 2023 to make a homeowner. You can go ahead and check out that. I'll put it up in the link in the corner of the screen. As well, guys, if you're ever curious about what strategies to implement, we actually discuss a lot of this already on the channel. You can find things that either take you through what I did, so the strategy that's actually being taken by Harker here is very similar to what I did on my VIP series, if he goes with Jara now instead of Aspen, or you can go ahead and look at other videos where I break down what you should do at 1, 2, 3, or even more Transcendence Heroes, potentially even using a Mockman. Let's go look at some of the more nitty-gritty stuff on the account. His artifacts are great. What about your star spawns? We've got ourselves... Oh! Okay, there's immediate areas for improvement here. You focused on your Spirit of Transcendence. Wow! What the heck? How are there so many of you with incredible awakens on your Spirit of Transcendence? This is literally the second time this week I've seen this. This is bonkers. Okay. What? Bro. How have you managed that on the Spirit of Coldblood as well? Holy smokes. Don't tell me this guy's got one as well. No, he doesn't. But you've asked what star spawns you should focus on upgrading. This is a tough one, because this guy gives all damage dealt, which is fantastic. And so it's definitely worth upgrading this one if you can. However, you really need to get the mage one up, as that's going to give you control immunity offset, which will improve the control of both your Aspen and your Jara, whichever one you choose to go with. So when you make Jara, she even gets a double bonus from this because she's a mage. So Jara loves the Spirit of Wisdom. So upgrading this is really crucial to making good progress. In fact, the HP one that you've leveled up to level 100, I think you could totally just undo this and just put it all in on the Spirit of Wisdom, as that control is just going to win you fights. I know it seems good to go with HP as that gives you more survivability, but actually locking down opponents with control gives you way more effective survivability because an opponent who's not hitting you is basically less damage you're taking. So who cares how big your health bar is if your opponent's not hitting you? So pretty good idea there. I would go ahead and swap those two around to maximize the control that you can put out, giving, of course, your Jara better crowd control and overall better support for your team. In fact, it can improve Vessa's silence as well, which is nice. And let's go see how you're managing to do in just some of the game modes real quick. We've got Sealand 26. Nice. Almost doing 27 here. Okay, I don't think you need much help with that. Very solid lineup, very solid team. You're using Olivia. We've got a Rogan. Maybe you'd need to bring in some Seahus or something just to give you an extra bit of tankiness. If you are going to do that, though, you're going to need probably a bunch of golden crowns that can stack with Freya's damage reduction buff that will give you a ton of defense, allowing the whole team to live, get loads of buffs, and then eventually Vessa will quite literally pop off. So that would be very nice. And he was there, then got regressed. Okay, so that's how you did that push. That's fair. That makes sense why you've got these Seahus. That's really cool then. Sometimes that's the thing people like to do. They push and then regress and then build them back again whenever they need to do another push. So that's good. Overall, though, the account is really solid. It's nice to go ahead and review an account like this that's gone and made what is a pretty atypical decision at this point. Not a lot of people do build towards Vessa as a main Transcendence hero early, but you have, and you're asking the right questions. You're focusing on the Star Expedition, which means you've done it for the right reasons. You've got your Mystic Fairy Freya all the way up to Tree of Origin 5 to give you the better bonuses, improving your Star Expedition damage, and you're actually sacrificing what could be further progress you could achieve with Aspen by then getting Jara, and then rather than getting Aspen again, going with Halora next will give you even more damage. And I know, even though your Void campaign progress won't be quite as good as it could be with Jara and Aspen together, by actually choosing Halora 4th, you maximize your boss fight damage and probably do well against puppets in Realm's Gate as well. So there's a lot of cool strategies out there. And yeah. And by the way, be sure not to look at the life faction. You know what? If people want to use the life faction as food, fair. It's a terrible faction, but you may regret it. As a guy who's an Asmodel the Dauntless main, I need loads of light heroes now. And I've got an EOS too, so yeah, you know what? That's a problem for another day. Folks at home, don't feed your light and dark heroes. And Harker, thank you for letting us look at your account, and hopefully you've all learned something. We did a lot of meta discussion about Transcendence heroes today and which ones to build. Whether you want to focus campaign or boss fights, make sure you're building the right Transcendence heroes and the right team for you. Till next time, don't forget to subscribe, and of course, happy idling.